Hey folks, Rob here with just a quick vlog to cover just realistically something about my collection goals for next year. Particularly this was going around a bit, particularly with Lactobacillus prime and the Highlander covered some of their thoughts on their own goals, and it got me thinking quite a bit. And thought I had a bit of a quiet afternoon, so I'd just do a quick ramble. So I think the first thing is next year I've got to slow down. I think I'm probably not the only one in that position. I think starting out, I put a little more in this year than might not have been the best thing at times. But the advantage of that is it has given me quite a backlog that I can work through for doing videos off. One of the downsides is, as you expect from the channel and from me, the C64 is the primary focus for me. And that means that it's the primary thing I go after in terms of looking for games for the system. And I'm sort of getting to the stage where looking at my want list, which I've sort of been good about tracking, a lot of the titles I want are tending to be this hard to find category, so they tend to command a bit of money. And that's before we get to the really rare ones on there, which are like, I'd love, but I realistically don't expect to get them. First Samurai is probably pretty high on the list for that, as an example. And I'm sort of in the position where I can't really try and go in for trying to hunt those games down. I've been through a few runs earlier, in the last few months of some titles, and they were all pretty much just well outside my. Then what they ended up going for on auction was well outside my range. And the next few months is going to be, that range is probably going to drop a little lower for work-related contract payout sort of reasons. It's complicated. With that, I might look on some of the other machines. For example, the Plus 4, which I got last month. There's a few games I want there, but not many. So, maybe, but there's not a lot there that I want to go after. And it's a similar boat with the Acorn Electron. Fewer games I want there, mostly. They're a little harder to find, which makes sense. It's a niche machine, so they're going to be a little pricier. And then onto the Amiga, and there's quite a few Amiga games I do want, but the Amiga just seems to command a bit of money for titles. The Amiga titles seem to go for a fair bit online. And I've not found any decent sources where I could just scrape a few bargains there. Which kind of sucks, because there's a few I'd love to do, I'd love to get proper copies of like Paradroid 90 and Uridium 2 for starters. Which should not be a surprise knowing me or knowing the channel why I want those. For example, on the Atari 8-bit side, there's a few car games I want, but they seem to be, again, it's like more harder to find things. And of all of them, I think the Spectra is probably I've got the best chance of finding stuff for. So I'll probably be looking at trying to build a little bit of a Spectrum games collection over the next few months, just because I think that those titles are a little more economical to get. And if all goes well, I'll be grabbing the bits to replace my SCART lead that I ordered when I got my Toast Rack a couple of months ago with a composite lead. Luckily, the Toast Rack can output both composite and RGB signals from the monitor port. And once I get a composite lead, which I'm slowly getting the parts for, I should hopefully be able to record some gameplay footage from that like I do with the C64. But to sort of get on the flip side, I think if I do go for C64 stuff, I'm probably going to look at trying to fill my backlog in terms of homebrew games. There's a lot of titles that Cytronic and RGCD have put out that I'd like to get physical copies of. I know that I think there's a re-release of Night and Grail, which I only saw for the first time recently. It looks amazing, and that's getting a Ultimate Edition upgrade or something. So I'd love to try and get my hands on that. And the big thing in slowing down is it allows me really to focus on my backlog. Right, as I said, I did get quite a few 64 games this year, and in terms of being able to do videos off them, my goal in terms of doing my gameplays is not to be a blind sort of play. There are people who do that really well. I don't. I like to be reasonably prepared. And to be honest, I think I haven't executed on that as well as I'd like with some games. So, I would like to, I hate basically not being able to clear the first stage in something. Being able to get far, you've seen things like Slicks where I put the time in recording to actually show all the tracks in the game. Supercars was the same. I actually wanted to do that with Lazy Jones, but I think when I got that game over, I'd realised I'd been recording for close to 15 minutes. I thought, we'll wrap it up there rather than start a new game. So I kind of want to do that. And there's some of the bigger games I've got that I've started diving into and wanting to do things. For example, Morpheus was a game I got back in April, I think. I'd have to check my my logs. And doing the video, which went out a few days ago as I'm recording this, was really the result of just playing that game over several months, just playing it, trying to understanding it, and see if I could actually do with it what I really wanted to do in terms of be able to explain how that game works for people. And I'm pretty happy with that as a result. I don't know. We'll see. I would. That's something later. But Morpheus was one I was actually pretty proud of for a lot of reasons. But it was one that took a lot of work to prepare. Things like that. If you remember during 64 month when I did the Flying Shark Sky Shark comparison between how the same tile was converted two different teams between the US and Europe. Again, that's one that took a fair bit of work to do. And for me, for next year, I would love to be able to sort of go into a bit more detail on more games and actually give that time. So I've been thinking about the formula. What I've concluded, I'll probably, when I do my December update, I'll talk about that a bit more. That's it. I mean, I really want to try and just be a little informative, I think is the thing. My style is I want to be informative about the games I cover, why they're really interesting, why they work well, all of that kind of stuff. And that leads on to a little question for you lot watching. I would love to know because right now there's 100 vids in the catalogue if you go through the main seasons. And I'd love to know, what's your favourite? Just a quick question, just leave a comment. But really, I'd like to know which vids of mine you really enjoyed, And not just in the sense of it was a game you really liked. It's a game, you like what I covered or what I did or showed enough of or something like that, Because while I have ideas on what I want to cover next year, there's still that thing of knowing what the audience was, and I'd love to hear that. And that'll help me hopefully make something that's more entertaining for the rest of you. I should say this: don't expect the general format to change significantly. I can't exactly install a chip in the back of my head that's going to make me a little more lively and out there. I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to be covering it, trying to give these old games a lot of respect. I deliberately try not to do bad games because there's a lot of respect I have for these games and where they fit in the timeline of the history of our hobby. And that, of course, is tainted by the fact that I do games development for a living. I do my own hobbyist projects, which you'll probably see if I get them off the ground. The one I'd like to work on, hopefully there'll be some dev stuff related to that I'll cover and more bits like that. That's pretty much it. So yeah, leave comments below what you think of the video. Hopefully next year you'll have some good stuff out there. And regardless of how you celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a good one. Have a good one. Safe New Year. Hopefully you're not completely surrounded by family that drive you bonkers. Hopefully you can get some good gaming time in if you've got a few days off work. And all the best. And I guess you'll see my next update, which will be after the New Year. So have a good one, and I'll catch you next time.